Hey everyone, how's it going? And I wanted to create another one today, but it was pertaining to a lot of the conversations I've been having recently. And it pertains to dating because a lot of people are always curious with me about my dating life and what I'm doing. And I think that's something for many people that know me, they're always perplexed, I should say, that I'm not even talking to anybody or having any type of engagement with the possibility of a romantic connection and so on and so forth. So I think that I would rehash this a little bit because I've talked about this over the years in the audio version. But after divorcing, I went ahead and had a lot of self-reflection and a lot of the things that I did and how I went about living life. And I felt that during that reflection, I realized that I was always trying to appease other people or conform to how other people wanted me to be. And because of that, I wasn't really living in my own skin. I wasn't living in my own comfort level. Not saying that those things weren't bad, but I was always trying to appease subconsciously people's narrative about me. And when you start doing that, then you get away from being in a good place, in my opinion. And I realized that coming out of divorce because I realized that I was always conforming to whether it's friends, whether it's family expectations, and in this case, dating, and conforming to somebody's vision of how you should be. And during that self-reflection time, I came to the realization that I needed to be honest with myself and that I also needed to convey my truth. And in doing that reality of coming to a point of saying you're no matter what, who you're talking to, you're going to be authentically yourself. You're going to not worry about whether that connection continues or not. And at the end, people that can see the sum total of you will support you and be part of your life regardless. So I came to that realization in my late 30s. And so it was something that now, as I look back many years later, and it's understanding that that's still true. And that unfortunately has consequences of people not being interested. And I talk to people about this, and I think that many of us from different walks of life and different dating statuses, from other people being single to having long-term marriages to being in new relationships and new marriages, that it is very obvious that the dating landscape now in 2026 is not what it used to be before social media. And I remember going back to my college days where the internet was the thing. It just started in my freshman year. I remember going in, we had to learn Windows 95 and the internet. We had to learn how to work with that because we lived the world 18 years before there was any computers or anything that we did with computers on a day-to-day basis. But here we are, and now we've transformed from just being behind the computer doing writings to now being able to engage and stay connected and even be able to create your own video shows, right? And so with that said, it is understanding that the way people communicated with each other changed. And the one thing that social media, in my opinion, does, it's that you can create a personality that is totally different than your authentic self. And we see that because you have internet influencers, you have all these different labels that are out there of a personality. Whether, I don't know if it was derived from Kim Kardashian and the reality TV explosion of that is something that people like and are attracted to watching. But I believe that because of this internet and technology being the way it is, that it is very obvious to me that it allows people in a world that dating already in general, in my opinion, is one where people aren't truly authentic in the first place. Why? Because they're trying to impress the other person. They really like a person and they don't want to say something or do something that is going to turn them off. So they're having to pretend, or as I like to say, put a mask on of something they conveying that they feel that person they're trying to court is wanting to hear and see. But in the long run, that mask comes off and then you see the real version of that person. So I think and I remember in my college days seeing people that were totally introverts, that didn't drink, didn't want to socialize in any way, shape, or form. And then once the internet came about, it gave them an opportunity to meet other people that was not in the realm of having to go out and socialize. And because the thing about being out in the world is that people get to see the real you from top to bottom. They get to feel your energy. They get to really have a mutual chemistry if it's there, or even a respectful banter, whatever it is, just human interaction instead of the digital one. Whereas now when you shift, where most people now, I believe the stats, if I'm not mistaken, is saying that most of the people that meet and dating are through online. It lets you know that the mindset has shifted to people going about dating that way now in 2026. And when I was talking back to my story about people back in the day of dating, these are not people that maybe if they went out in the world would be attractive to other people, because usually they're not as tall, maybe they don't dress well, so on and so forth. So I think that the internet has allowed a slew of people that wouldn't normally be in the dating pool because they'll be too introverted, or they just don't feel comfortable in those environments of courting, right? That it allows them to have create a persona that maybe it's not authentic, and obviously lead into it, and that story, or that I would say that gimmick won't be exposed until very later on in life. And I think when I talk to people from all walks of life over the years that go into a situation, and this is including myself, and then as you go along, you realize that the things that you were saying or that you were agreeing upon were reset, or were no longer something that the person was willing to accept, is sadly a common thing nowadays. I'm sure it was like that before because people had to court, but I think now there is such a hidden agenda within dating that people are ultimately feel entitled. That's the way I see it. And that's why it's very hard for me. I can only speak for me, obviously, but I think it's very hard for me to date because there is a level of entitlement that people have. And when you reflect and you look at yourself and you say, okay, what do I bring to the table to a relationship? And I can just name those things in a tangible perspective. Emotional support, financial support, security, protection. You never have to feel threatened or someone threatening your safety in any way, shape, or form when you're with me or around me. Obviously, I feel that I'm very giving, very selfless, not willing to work as a partnership, not about being controlling. I'm not jealous. I'm very much an independent thinker, and I'm very accepting of different walks of life. So if you happen to be a pack-a-day smoker, cool. I'm not going to judge you on that because that's part of who you are, but that's not the sum total of who you are. So I think that because of that mindset, I'm able to accept people from all different walks of life. But unfortunately, the same gesture is not returned in dating, because what I've seen with my counterparts, the ladies, is that they have such a demand of solicitation of people that would normally not solicit because they wouldn't step up to them at the bar, or they wouldn't go and approach them at an event. People, there's a group of men, in my opinion, that they wouldn't feel comfortable in that public space of how to approach a girl, but in the internet world, what do you have to lose? There is nothing that is stopping them from being able to solicit people, because at the end, what's going to happen? You're going to get rejected. What else is new? And for a lot of people, in my opinion, I think the rejection that they experience online is it's just easier to get over than the one in person. When you go up to somebody and they don't want to give you the time of the day. I used to have a rule where if I talked to somebody and I was giving them 20 minutes of my time and they were giving me one word answers, I just walked out. And sometimes it'll be even shorter. Like you just know when someone doesn't want to talk to you. You just know when someone is not interested in connecting with you on that level. So you have to, some people, listen, some guys are much different in that regard. They are persistent. I'm a person that I don't go where I'm not wanted. So if you give me any inclination that I'm not being welcomed into your space, I'm not going to go there. So I think that that's something that I take cues on very well. And I try my very best to be good to people, to be genuine, and to present myself in an authentic way. But it's become a challenge in dating, like I tell people, because number one, the person on the other side is not being authentic about their intentions. They're not being able to convey it because either they're worried about judgment, because they've been judged negatively in the past, which I understand that. And then just people that are knowing, they know themselves enough to know that they're selfish, or that they're self-centered, or that they're not able to give what they want to receive. A lot of double standards out there. And I think that the people that are married and have been in long-term marriages understand the peaks and valleys of it. They understand that that person on the other end is never going to be perfect. But guess what? No one out there is ever going to be perfect. So they rather deal with the devil they know than the devil they don't know. And that's the mindset that when I talk to people, especially the people that are married, they find it perplexing that as open-minded as I am, as easygoing as I am, as much as I provide from an emotional, financial, and physical perspective of support, safety, being able to hold my own, being able to help you, all of these things that are expected of a man, right? Because the thing about a man is that you have to check off these things if you want to even be viable to date anyone. Like I can't not have a good career, be living in my mom's house in a room, not have a car, right? Like all these different things that is going to turn off a lot of people from wanting to be with me in a romantic capacity. So, and then obviously for me, in addition to what I just talked about, the challenges of authenticity, is that the priorities are not usually aligned, especially at my stage now in life. I'm 49 right now. So it's, as I go into my 50s, like a lot of women in this age bracket have kids and are grown kids and are having an empty nest stage where they're wanting or they're able to prioritize a relationship and give it all of its time, or give most of the time they have towards a relationship. Whereas on my end, I'm still in the trenches of raising a teenage girl that I'm very heavily involved in. And then I have a career that have a lot of responsibility, and I have to be always available. I work every day. Before I took this on, I was working through some emails every day. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas. It doesn't matter if it's my birthday. There is always something coming that I have to attend to, because God forbid someone is going to have a problem and is going to create issues at the office. So I'm responsible for staff. I'm responsible for agents. And that's something that I take very seriously. And part of my identity is knowing that I could be dependent on, and that people in my life can depend on me to be there when they need me for support. And in work is no different. That's the angle I take and the approach I take with work. And unfortunately, those two things I mentioned tend to cause conflict with other people that I'm dating, because in theory, when I'm talking about it to you here, it's understood, it's accepted. How can anybody not understand that? But then when they start living it and they start seeing it, then it's something that they realize, okay, wait a minute, this is not what I wanted to get into, even though I convey my truth. Even though this is something that they know from day one, and they're still trying to push through and figure out a way to make their priority your priority, or your priority their priority, it's not something that can work. So when I have these aspects going on of the priorities not being aligned, and then you have another layer to that, right? Compatibility, personal, emotional, and intimacy. Because you can have the right priorities, you can have the transparency and all that, but if you're not compatible in what you desire in a connection, it's something that is not going to benefit anybody. Because the one thing about myself at this stage is I'm very cognizant of time. I don't want to waste someone's time that they invest in me. And that's the reason why I choose to be authentic, because I don't want to waste someone's time or mislead someone into thinking that I'm going to present something that is not in the cards, that is not part of my operating procedures, so to say. And that's where the conflict hits, because I have people that always tell me, maybe you shouldn't be as authentic, maybe you shouldn't convey as much as you do when it comes to the courting process and when people are trying to get to know you. But I just feel that I will be wasting someone's time. And then granted, and that's another thing that I notice as well with the dating pool that you find in these days, is that there is such a rush to get moving together and build a house, not a house physically, but just building a nest together and then having it out there for Facebook to brag about it every other week. That's what it feels like to me. The dating pool. It's like they are tired of the casual dating. They are tired of people, of guys lying and telling them what they want to hear. They want somebody to get together, get married. Let's not waste time. Let's live happily ever after. And I think that, in my opinion anyway, it's a very weird thing to accept, because I don't understand how anybody that has been through the challenges of divorce and breakups, that they want to rush into the next thing. I want to take my time. I want to be able to get to know you with no rush. And especially now at this stage, because we're not trying to have kids. I'm open to it, right? But I'm not even looking remotely for that. And I'm realistic enough to understand that a lot of people in my age bracket are not trying to have more kids. Okay, so if we're not trying to have kids, if we're already had some heartbreaks and challenges in our lives about what's been going on and how things have panned out within dating, don't you think you would want to not rush into it and try to get to know somebody, and not want to expect for things to move along quicker because of the pressures that you may feel from outside of being in a relationship status? Because I do realize that with women, not all of them, obviously, this is not speaking to everybody, so not saying that, but people place their self-worth on marital status. And it's sad, because I see it with women shaming other women or staying away from other women. I know with me, I see it with guys, it's like when they're married, they don't fraternize with single guys. They'll fraternize with other married people, which is fine, because they're still together and they're trying to be with a dating couple. So I totally understand that. But with women, I think it's a little bit harsher with each other because they're worried about competition. And I understand that. And I guess for me, it's seeing that those challenges of interacting with people and dating people is what causes me to just take my time and not fall into the pressure of, okay, I can't hang out with these people because they're couples or doing things like that. And of course, I don't need any help with parenting I don't need any help with any of the other things that you would typically see in dating dynamics with other children. So, meaning people that are dating with children usually want a male or a female role model to help with the raising, cultivating the growth of a kid. And, like I said, I've been there, done that. Not for me. And I think ultimately, when you're talking about dating in this day and age, the challenges lie in the lack of transparency and the rush to having a status, and people not catering to each other. And that's, I'll leave with this, is that, my mindset is in anything, whether it's personal, family, or dating in this case that I'm talking about, is that I match your energy. So if I'm your texting buddy and that's all I am, then that's all we are. Then we're not friends. Or if you are a family member that doesn't make the effort to see me, but I'm always going to see you, then I'm going to stop and match your energy, because that allows me to not feel the frustration of why energy is not being reciprocated, because I give, and subconsciously I've always wanted to receive the same love, receive the same attention, receive the same considerations. But I've realized through just life experiences that it's not the case. So I think that when it comes to dating, it's understanding those factors that I just mentioned, and when the right connection happens, it will happen. But they will be under the same understanding that they have priorities as well, that they are very emotionally independent. They're not controlling. They're not having ulterior motives. They understand that that we are each other's prize. And I always tell that to people. It's like, I'm a prize too. I'm not saying I'm creme de la creme, but a 6-foot guy that's doing good in a career and takes care of himself and is mentally sane. I don't have any criminal record. All the things that women worry about, right? Like, I don't have any domestic abuse issues. I don't have any drug issues, and so on and so forth. So it's just a thing that I always, when I have these conversations with people that reach out to me to ask how everything's going, I tell them it's going, but it's not something that and the good news with me is that I don't put any stock in it, because I'm already busy living life. Like I said, I'm already busy. I got the little one over there, not the little one, big girl, but she is out there sleeping, always hanging out with her. And then obviously doing my job at work and making sure that things are running in the operations side good on a day-to-day basis. So for anyone that's listening to this that wants to know about my dating status and what's going on in the love world, there it is. It's what's going on. And I'm open to it. But realistically, I think it's going to be mostly when my daughter's out of the house and she's living her own life. Then I could prioritize somebody. And then maybe I'll get to a stage in a career where it's not as demanding as it is now. But I love it. I love my life as it is now. And I have no problem having someone that complements it, not be the center of my universe. So I think until that person comes in and understands that and is willing to work at that pace and not trying to mesh everything all together so quickly, then I'll be open to that. But no rush for anything. And I have people to talk to. I have a lot of friends that I talk to, and I'm not even, the thing is, at this stage, I keep saying the last thing, but it's that, I don't even entertain people, because I think that it's energy for me. It's all about giving energy. And when I give energy to people, like some men love flirting with multiple women. They love that energy every day, like that attention. I'm not that way. It's already hard enough to keep one woman happy. Or one person happy, not again, because men can be just as demanding, right? But it's realizing that your energy is very sacred to you. Who you give your time to, who you give your loyalty to, who you give your love to, is something that I protect, and I make sure that it's not something that people have access to unless they're giving back to me in the same way. So hopefully that this helps understand, but I just wanted to share this on there. So thank you for tuning into this rant, and definitely we'll do it again soon.